There are many times. There are many times I hear the voice, a voice of freedom calling me. Yeah. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Politics of Kendra. Today we have Hannah Rose, how do you say your last name?
Sesser.
Sesser. I'm obsessy with Hannah Rose Sesser. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it's awesome to be here.
Yeah.
Did you? I'm curious. Did you think my name was pronounced a different way?
I haven't rattled it around in my mind.
Okay.
Let's see, Hannah Rose.
Because everyone always thinks they're gonna mispronounce it, and then they say Sesser. I'm like, it's exactly how it sounds. There's no
Sesser. Caesar. I was gonna say.
Okay. Some people have said Caesar before.
I'm just one of those people who likes to mess with pronunciation.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of dropped off my last name because I go by Hannah Rose, and if you spell that all together, it's HANNAHROSCSCSSER, and it's like just so many S's.
Go team.
Yeah. SSER.
So for entertainment, do you go by Hannah Rose as your stage name?
Yeah. For the most part. Yeah.
Do you add roses into, do you feel like roses are part of who you are?
I guess it's more of like a fun artsy name than like next up Hannah Sesser. It's more like, oh, Hannah Rose, what is she about? A little bit more mysterious.
Is your middle name really Rose?
Yeah.
You heard it here first, people.
It's really Rose.
Although her Instagram is the fake Hannah Rose.
I know. I get a lot of comments about that. I get a lot of questions from guys. The most common pickup line is, who's the real Hannah Rose? Every guy says that to me. And they think they're being like original and
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you say back?
I normally just don't respond.
I'm gonna start taking that rule out of her book. Just don't respond.
I used to be definitely a big people pleaser on social media, and now I'm just like ruthless. Like I don't know.
I'm such a people pleaser on social media. I feel like I'm a people pleaser in my real life, but then on social media it's like amplified because it's like the running numbers. I'm like, how do I get people to like me? Please, sir, I'd like some more.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think people are gonna dislike you or like you either whatever you do. So just do whatever you want. So that's kind of what I feel like I've learned.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely had experiences with guys being super nice to me and then me not wanting to like do something for them, being like, well, you just whatever, like you just, it's gonna happen.
Right.
It's inevitable. I actually have a friend that if you want to talk to her, you have to subscribe to her OnlyFans.
Really? How does she establish that?
So like, someone will send her a message and she'll be like, if you want to continue this conversation, here's a link to my OnlyFans.
That's an amazing idea.
Yeah. She will not talk to anyone unless it's on OnlyFans.
That's pretty ruthless. Yeah. Although I'm sure that ROI is great. Return on investment.
Yeah.
It's a marketing term. So the world of Hannah Rose, you are from one of my favorite places ever, Colorado.
I am, yeah. I'm from Broomfield. Have you ever been?
I've been to the First Bank Center, and I used to work at Vail Resorts there, the corporate office.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're familiar.
I'm pretty familiar with Broomfield. Went to some string cheese concerts and Widespread Panic. Got pretty intense.
My dad was probably there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like the Halloween show of 2016.
Yeah, he was probably there.
He was definitely there.
Yeah.
So when did you move to California?
I moved to California 2015, 16, something like that. Yeah, I moved. I actually ended up dropping out of high school to move to Los Angeles.
Whoa.
I finished high school. I actually finished high school online, the same school that Kylie Jenner went to. So.
Wow.
But yeah, I moved to LA, what would have been my senior year of high school.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I just was like, I don't I just knew I wasn't going to go to college immediately, and maybe, so yeah.
So what was your parents' reaction when you were like, hey, the car's packed, I'm outie?
I mean, they definitely were reluctant to that. My mom was more accepting of it, but my dad was like, you have to go to college, and then my mom was like, well, would you much rather her go to college and waste all this money, and you know, and he's like, I guess not. So so maybe someday I'll go to. I've been kind of thinking about college just because everything's like locked down. I'm like, maybe I should like go to school, especially now since California, you don't have to take SAT or ACTs to get into college. Yeah.
SATs were fucking brutal.
That was half of the reason why I didn't want to go to college.
It was like an Adderall fest for like 6 hours on the Saturday.
Yeah. I think because of the pandemic, they don't require them anymore in California.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why I ended up doing an online school based in California was like, in case I wanted to go to college, I would have had in-state tuition in California. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I still haven't gone to college, so.
How old were you when you moved to California?
17?
Oh my God, 17.
Yeah.
Okay, so you packed up the car. Did you have your apartment like set up before you got out here? Did you just like free ball it?
Well, my mom came with me for the summer. I'm her favorite child. I don't know if you can tell.
Yes.
She would not have done that for either of my siblings. She came with me for the summer, and we stayed at some hotels and Airbnbs, and then she kind of helped me get settled, and then she left. My dad came to visit for like a vacation, and then they both flew home together, and then I remember just being like, I'm here alone, and it was just, I wanted my mom to leave so bad. You know, I was 17. I was like, I want my mom. I'm an adult now. Like, leave, mom. And then she left, and I was like, I am here all alone in this state.
Yeah.
With no one I know.
What was the first thing you did?
Oh, I don't know. Probably nothing. I probably just went home and I was like, oh my God, what if something happens? What if? I think I called my mom when I was like, I don't know how to mail a letter. Just like asking a dumb question.
That's like being 17 though, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really, like, now that I'm older, 22, in retrospect, like, I really didn't need to move. I could have finished high school. It wouldn't have been, to me at that time, I was like, I have to move. My life is passing me by. This is going to be the end of the world if I have to stay in this town, you know, just, but now that I'm like, I could have just waited a year, graduated from high school. It would have been, it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, the story building up to it, like, I did the same thing. That's how I ended up in Colorado. As I moved, I was like, my life is passing me by. I need to go find myself.
Where are you from?
I'm from Texas, lived in LA, went to college out here, graduated. Post-college graduation, it's like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
Moved to Colorado for a little bit, and I think in retrospect, sometimes I'm like, did I really need to move there for a while? But it's so much of a part of my story.
Right, yeah.
And like, that's a really big part of your story that you were just like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it made me mature way quicker. Like, you know, when I went back home for the holidays that year and all my friends were seniors in high school and I went to see them, we were just in completely different levels of life already. So I am glad that it kind of just like pushed me in and just to, you know, get the show on the road. But yeah, in retrospect, I could have just had my senior year, done the normal graduation, and then moved, you know.
Yeah, those graduation pics. So.
I didn't. My online school that I went to, you could go to prom. I was like, I'm not going to homeschool prom. I had been to prom before, so I was like, I don't need to go to homeschool prom.
It's kind of lame.
I know, like, there's no way. I don't even know I wouldn't know anyone there. And then they had a
graduate high school prom.
At the online school.
Okay.
And so I didn't go to that. And then they had a graduation. It was based in Ojai. And I was like, I'm not going to go. Like, it's not like any of this means to me. I don't know any of my classmates. I don't know the teachers. So yeah, I didn't get a graduation.
Sorry. So you were talking about your high school graduation, going to your, not virtual graduation, but your Ojai graduation with Kylie Jenner present.
Okay, yeah, that's...
Was she the valedictorian?
Of course. I think she actually graduated a year before me, technically. I think she's a year older than me, which is crazy. I definitely am that kind of person where I compare people that are really successful that are my age, and I'm like, she's a billionaire, and like, and obviously I'm not even gonna be at that level in any sort of the imagination, maybe my entire life, but I always compare myself to like people my age who are very successful.
I do that too, but then now I compare myself to people who are a few years younger than me, because I was just
that's how I'm starting to get.
Oh God, it's like I spent so many years partying. Like it was my freaking 9-to-5 job. Like my occupation, clocking in every day, was partying. And it was so much fun while doing it. I mean, there's moments that weren't fun, but looking back at, I look at people who have like yada yada amount of followers on Instagram or whatever, and they're singers, songwriters, and I'm like, they're like 23 and following their dream.
Right.
And that would be cool. I mean, I know that everyone has their own journey, but
yeah. Now that I'm getting a little bit older, I'm seeing other comics who are starting, when they were 19 and stuff, and I'm like, I remember, and I was like, they better not be more successful than me right now,
Yeah. Well, that's refreshing to hear that someone else thinks like that.
Yeah.
Like I'll look at someone and I'll be like, congrats.
I know. I'm like, good for you, but like.
Good for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's hard not, I don't know, comparing yourself to other people. But then I always have to do the thing of remind myself, I wouldn't be able to make the kind of art that I make without the experiences I've had. And I definitely feel like I have like a big hold up on like, if I don't have things done by 30, I've failed, which is like, it's ridiculous, but it's definitely something I have in my head.
Yeah, I think I've at least because I'm 27. It's soon to be 28 in February, and it's got a whole different chime to it being over 25. But I think I've reached a certain point where it's like, I at least don't stay up at night thinking about the different ways that I suck. Right. Now I'm like, okay, I've made it enough that I can like be cool with myself forever after. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to continue going. It just means that I like don't have that same pit in my stomach every single day. But the interesting thing about getting closer to 30, and this is like a whole different ballgame of conversation, is it's like now I'm like, I need to like meet a guy, because if I want to have a kid, maybe that's like within 6 years or something.
Right. Yeah, I think that's another worry, because I'm like, well, I can't be doing all this career stuff and have a kid at the same time unless I have a lot of money. Then I can do, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, I just get all these different scenarios that haven't even happened in my head, and I'm just like trying to figure out how they'd all play out and like what I need to do. And
so when you have these different scenarios go on in your head, how do you keep from going too far to like the stress out worry side?
Well, I don't know. That's I've not mastered that. I mean, I think it just comes in waves of just kind of how you're feeling. Sometimes I'll be like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm doing this. It's what I like. Things are gonna work out. And then other times I'm just like, what am I doing?
Yeah. No, good for nothing. And then the next day I'm like, you're a superstar. You've done everything perfect in the whole world. Everyone loves you. Next day, everyone hates you. Next day, everyone loves you.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster for sure.
Yeah.
So when you moved out here at 17 from Colorado, did you have the intention of becoming a stand-up comic already?
No, never in my entire life did I think that. Yeah. I actually moved here originally to be like a dancer.
Wow.
Yeah, and then actually a couple weeks before I came out to Los Angeles, I got into a car accident.
Whoa.
I got hit by this car going like 70 miles an hour. My whole car spun, totaled it. I wasn't like rushed to the hospital, but I definitely have all these injuries from it that I can't really be a professional dancer. And I was gonna move out to LA in a couple weeks to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And then I was like, I guess I'll just move.
Yeah.
I already had that planned.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I still dance a little bit, but yeah, there's just I couldn't really do it professionally.
That's so scary.
Yeah.
So how did you emotionally deal with that?
I was kind of thinking about this at the time. I don't know, it didn't faze me that much. Because I guess I was like, I guess I'll do acting. I don't know. You're just 17 and you're like, I guess I'll just like, you know. So then I came out to do acting. And
which is how we met. We met in an acting class.
Oh yeah, we did. Improv.
Groundlings.
Met in Groundlings.
Character-based improv acting.
Yes. And how I got into improv was I got a manager in LA. You don't need a manager if you don't do anything.
I thought you were gonna have like the secret sauce, like you don't need a manager, you just need to do this instead.
If you don't really have a career, you don't need a manager. So that's advice to my past self. You didn't need that manager, who was an asshole. But
yeah,
he kind of did that thing where like, if you want to be an actor, you got to do improv class, classes. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll take an improv class. And I took one at iOS. Doesn't exist anymore, but I took a class there and I just really enjoyed it. And then I just started to like go through their program and doing their writing classes. And I did a lot of improv for a few years. And then how did I get into stand? Oh, I had a commercial, like an on-camera commercial teacher, whatever they call them.
That's actually pretty accurate. On-camera commercial teacher.
Yeah. And she kind of was like mentoring some of us for free. She was a very successful commercial actor. I don't even know why she did this. We just had like a group of us that she kind of was like mentoring better than our actual manager.
Dig.
Yeah. And she suggested that I try this stand-up class. And I didn't even know you could take a class for stand-up. I don't even know how I feel about it now. I don't really think classes are that helpful, but I didn't know you could take a class. I didn't even think to even try to do stand-up. But I was like, oh, okay, I guess. And then I took the class. I thought it was the greatest thing ever, but it took me so long to be able to pursue it because I just was so scared of it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there had been like a couple... I think I might have taken the class when I was like 18, and between like 18 and 20, I was like kind of doing stand-up, but kind of scared, but and it would take a break. And then finally, when I turned 21, I was like, I have to, like, this is what I really want to do, and I need to try to do it. But I did, never in my head did I think I could do stand-up.
So how did you get started? You took the class, and then did you start going to open mics?
Yeah, it was part of the class. You had to go to open mics, and then just starting to go to open mics is just, I honestly think is the hardest part. And being okay with like sucking and but once you get over, I don't know, you just get to a point where you just do so many mics and shows and you are so bad that it stops getting personal. And you're just like, this is just part of it. I'm working on this stuff.
And then try not to like be too much about it. Yeah. You
definitely have to learn to separate your self-worth from if people are laughing, which is very difficult when you're a teenage girl.
So you got into stand-up. What was like your first couple kind of genres and stuff, like things that you did, your types of jokes?
Oh, horrible jokes. I've always wanted to be someone who could do characters and impressions. I just can't. I just don't have the ear. You know how some people can like hear someone's talk and then kind of do the same, mimic them? I can't. I just can't do that. But I would try to do like impressions. I feel like a lot of people when they first do stand-up, they just want like their opinions heard. And this is something I see a lot in people and something that I definitely did. I didn't really tell jokes. I just was like, this is my opinion on this topic. And I just be like, this is how I feel about it. Which isn't funny.
Cheap therapy, though.
Yeah. That's kind of the running joke within comedy is that it's therapy. So I kind of just complained for a few years, and then I don't know. I don't even think now I have a voice. People tell me that they like my point of view, and I'm like, what is it? Like, can you tell me what it is? Because I don't know what that is. Yeah. You know, but
I would say I've seen some of your jokes. I would say it's like a satirical, straight up telling the truth, but saying it in a way that is just a tad cynical.
Okay, I see that. I like that. I like being seen as kind of like a mysterious, cynical, dark,
edgy. Like you've been through some stuff.
Yeah.
Started stand up. You went from a complaining phase to a less complaining phase, or did you find your niche?
No, I mean, I definitely don't think I have found my niche. I mean, you just kind of have to learn your view on the world and taking different scenarios and putting it through that lens, which is something that I don't think I have under control or mastered. But that's kind of how you have to go about it. But
that's so interesting. Like, I'm thinking about that in like a songwriting way, because every songwriter has their own style, but to be able to have your own lens and to have your own style and to not get too repetitive. Do you find that you get repetitive in jokes at all?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of having like the same like demeanor or punchline. There was like I think honestly before the lockdown, I was just doing so much stand up and I was just so in my head about it. I was just getting tired of it. And I couldn't really like I couldn't really work on my jokes because I just had like one lens on it. And I don't know. I feel like now that I kind of took a break and have come back to it, I'm funnier, more relaxed, some jokes that I couldn't figure out how to get them to work, like now I can get them to work because I took a break from them, and now I can see them in a different aspect. But before the quarantine, I was doing like this thing where I was like, I'm gonna be very monotone and not really have any sort of expression, and it just was like it kind of worked, but definitely there were some scenarios where it didn't work. And the problem with having like a character for stand-up is if the character doesn't really work on stage and you start to bomb, I don't really see an easy way to get out of the bomb, because to me I don't really feel like you can bomb on stage if you're present. Like if your jokes aren't working and you address that they aren't working and you're addressing things, if you can be very present and learn how to communicate with the audience, like you're not gonna bomb.
Right.
I think it's when you kind of monologue or put on a character where you say these jokes, like you kind of have them in your head and then they're not working, and then you're not because it's like a conversation with you and the audience. Yeah. And if you aren't responding to how they're responding, then it's weird, and you just start to like lose them. Right. But if you can be very responsive to how they responded to that joke or something fell over there, so I'm going to address. I hate when people don't address when something big happens in the room. Yeah. It's like, that's so weird that you didn't address that a plate fell over there.
It's like a golden opportunity to say something about it. You could even just throw in an opa, and everyone's like, opa, and you're like, that's kind of like a laugh.
Yeah. But it is way harder to do that because you're kind of going into no man's land if you don't you have anything prepared.
Right.
But that's a skill that you just have to do, and you're going to be bad at it for a long time. I don't think I'm great at it, but that's part of it, is being able to be super present. And if your jokes aren't working, being like, that sucked, didn't it? And then then they'll laugh at that because you're acknowledging that sucked.
Right. And so I ran into this, I have run into this in the past as a musician, where I'll go on stage and I have that moment where I'm like, oh my God, am I bombing?
Yeah.
But it's really just like I'll hit a chord like weird, and it has like a ringing tone, so it like comes off like, oh, she messed up or something, and then I'll start to be like, they know I messed up, I know I messed up, my whole life is a mess up.
Just spiraling.
Yeah, and then it's like what I'll get, the next thought in my mind is, well, you're gonna finish the show, so as long as you go up from here, you didn't bomb. You just literally just missed a chord.
Yeah.
And then addressing it in some ways, like, you know, if I can like change the song choice for the next one to kind of. And also, I read this quote by Mike Gordon from Fish, and he was talking about how he was out to lunch one time, and there was someone performing at the outdoor patio, and he said the person performing at the outdoor patio didn't take into account the energy of any of the people at the restaurant. He was just like barreling through the material.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so like people would, you know, there's like a flow to things. So it's like, oh, this kind of changes, do a soft song. This kind of changes, do a hardcore song.
Right.
And I've started to think about that because I would do that before. Besides like any sort of bombing elements, like I remember a couple shows like in the beginning too. So I'm still learning, but I would go on stage and just go straight through the set list and say thank you. And then I realized I'm like, wow, I just really like projected on all these people without taking into account. It's like, hey, let me come up here and just spew on you for 45 minutes or so. Yeah. Okay, so can you tell us a joke or two?
A joke?
Or something that you're working on.
What am I working on? That's a good question. I have a show tonight, and I was thinking, it's hard because I was at a mic last night, and I even said on stage, I was like, there's no point in working on anything because we're going to shut down again, and all the things I'm working on right now aren't going to be relevant in 2 months. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I am kind of trying to work on, it's not going to work in a month, but I'm trying to do comparisons of like what we were doing last year at this time compared to this year. Like last year at this time, the biggest thing dividing us was who did or did not like the Joker movie. Like that was the biggest divider. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That everyone was talking about it. I was like losing friends over people who didn't like the Joker.
What?
I mean, like it was like a whole. Maybe it was a big thing with comics because we were all like, "This isn't real comedy," or "This is how I feel," you know.
But I didn't see the movie because it was.
Oh.
Well, when things are popular, I'm like, I'll wait till it's like.
I kind of do that too.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to see Star Wars. I've never seen Game of Thrones.
Right.
Yeah. Anything like that.
Star Wars is a classic. Game of Thrones, decent storyline.
Yeah.
It's not a bad watch. I've seen like one episode.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing dividing us last year was the Joker.
Yeah, but now we're like a pandemic and like all this other stuff. I was like, if we just known last year that our biggest problem wasn't going to be Joaquin Phoenix, you know,
it would be like walking outside.
Yeah,
there is like a division that we've got. Well, maybe we won't get too far into it. It's such a sensitive time. It's like, I don't know, everything.
I was trying to work, and I was trying to work on another joke that people are just sensitive about things going on in the news and don't really want to see anything comedically. But I just think it's so funny how people are against the lockdown. Some people want lockdown. Yeah. You know, and I love how the arguments between the two are just people being like, well, I don't want people to die of suicide, so we should stay open. And then people are like, I don't want people to die of COVID, so we should close. So we're just like fighting over how we want people to die.
Yeah.
Which I think is so funny how we're like, no, we're going to die of suicide. No, we're going to die of COVID. Like,
yeah. Like, I'm going to accidentally revamp my alcoholism and drink way too much inside, or I'm going to do it at an outdoor place.
Yeah. So I was kind of trying to work on that, but I was at a mic where everyone was like very like, you know, we need to lock down, masks, very Democrat, like, and I'm like, I am too, but like, I think it's funny that people we're just arguing over like, should we die of a cough or should we shoot ourselves? Like,
that's interesting to have everyone more or less on the same side, and then there's still, well, that's debate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I'm interested to see, I remember back in the day when I'd see a comic, it seemed so far away when we could have politically incorrect comedy, and I'd be like, that is some damn raunchy material. It's almost like aggressive, and it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that type of comedy is just going to take a little bit of a break, or is it going to subside, or is there going to be like a transformation of being able to kind of make fun of stuff while being respectful?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely still comics who, I just think it's dumb when comics are like, I'm an edgelord now, like, I just say whatever I want to fucking say. And, like, and you're like, okay, calm down. To me, the way I think of it, just even as someone who doesn't even get paid really to do stand-up, is when you do sets, it's your job to make them laugh, no matter what they believe or what you believe. I feel like I see so many comics who are like, this is my material. If they don't like it, they can get the fuck out. And I'm like, you're in service of these people.
Yeah.
Your job is to make them laugh, not for you to, like, you know, get on your high horse about this is my material. It's like, no, it's your job to make people laugh. You went into this is a service industry, you know? So that's kind of how I see it.
I've been thinking that way with music. Like, definitely I think that there should be elements on the album that are, like, heartfelt songs and, like, more kind of personal songs, like track 2, 4, 6, to name a few. But at the same time, it's like I am here trying to get the music heard and to reach as many people as possible. Yeah. So as I've been listening to, like, pop songs and stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I can be a little bit more general. Like, take what I'm thinking, but make it a little bit more accessible to people.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I just do so many whiny comics, even ones who even have a following that they don't even. It's like, dude, you have people who see you. Like, I don't know why you're complaining that you can't do certain types of bits. It's like, people want to see you. Yeah. But I'm like, this is a service industry. This isn't like, this is my art, and if you don't like it, get out. It's like, no, that's not what this is. Well, people are paying to see you. Yeah. They want to laugh. That is your job. And if you can't fulfill that job, then I guess you're not that funny.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So at what point does a comic who is in that state of mind where it's like, I'm just going to do my material. It's like, why would the person who has that big of a following be complaining?
Unless they just want to complain about it.
Yeah, unless that's their personality.
Yeah. I think a lot of people just have a victim mentality about things, and I'm like, you literally are a millionaire who does stand up, and like, why are you complaining about this? Because you bombed? Because you ended up not being that funny at some show? Like, come on.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're like a millionaire comic, isn't most of the audience gonna
know you and be there for you? Yeah. I think they more bomb when it's not their shows. Yeah. When they're on other shows and they don't do well, they kind of get a little snippety.
Salty. Yeah. I get that, because it's like they know what they're getting when they're just in front of their audience. But. Yeah,
but I think a good comic should be able to be in front of everyone. Mm-hmm. You know, I know some people who are like, I don't go in front of alt rooms, or there's just all these
alt rooms.
Yeah, alt rooms. At least to my understanding, it's more kind of like liberal, kind of hipstery kind of people who wouldn't like the edgy stuff. But I'm like, if you can't, I don't know, you should be able to get in front of anyone and be funny. And there's some people who don't do well in front of different races of people.
That's telling.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should just be able to make anyone laugh. Yeah. And if you can only be in front of a controlled type of person, you might need to work on it a bit, you know?
Yeah. So you said this alt audience, but then you said they're liberal, but they don't like edginess. I thought they would love edginess.
I'm trying to think of like alt comic. Like Maria Bamford is kind of like an alt comic. Oh, or like Melissa Villaseñor. She's on SNL. Okay. Okay, I probably that's kind of more alt. I guess Zach Galifianakis would be kind of alt. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have different identifiers for alt, but it normally isn't like mainstream comedy. Mm-hmm.
Something that I would show my mom and she'd go, I don't get it, this isn't funny. Yeah. But then I'd show someone else and they'd be like, ha ha ha, this is hilarious. Yeah.
And normally they're a little bit more, they aren't as, no one's gonna be doing like race humor or, things like that. It's more tame. Yeah. But I think you should be able to go in front of anyone and be funny, so. Yeah.
So what's your method? How do you come up with jokes? Are you observing stuff? What's your method?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of throughout the day, if I kind of like think something, I don't know, different about a situation, I'll write it down on my phone, and then maybe I'll just talk about it at a mic. I won't even like try to write any jokes, and just kind of see like, what do I actually think about this topic or this situation that happened to me, and then I'll just like slowly write a bit, keep doing it at mics, or maybe try it at a show, and then slowly just kind of like tinker away at like what I'm trying to say, and like what people respond to. Yeah. So
you workshop in front of people.
Yeah.
But you have to have a certain amount of confidence in order to workshop in front of people.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing with being able to work on comedy is being able to be bad in front of people. Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think about like other artists, and this can be, well, of course I'm talking about music mostly, but when I see people and they're just so polished, at first in my mind I'm like, oh, they're perfect, they've never messed up in their entire life, and I am like a box of rocks or something. But it's like these people have so much backstory, you know, so it's okay.
A lot goes into that.
A lot goes into it. It's okay to be more raw, and it's okay to workshop your slightly awkward jokes on stage in front of people.
Yeah. And not get mad if they don't work, you know?
What's the funniest thing that you've seen, whether it's you or someone else, where they just, have you seen someone like storm off the stage or?
I mean, a lot of comics will do this thing where they'll be like, fuck you guys. And they'll start to like attack the audience. Be like, I don't need you. I don't need, you know. And they just say like crazy things.
And they'll be back next week.
Yeah. They'll be like, please think I'm funny. I've seen things like that a lot. What else crazy? I have seen a woman one time in the audience. She was like really drunk. It was like before it even, she was like blackout drunk before the show started. And she was like heckling people through the comic sets and just being very disruptive. And then at one point she like gets up out of her seat and like gets up like in front of everyone and goes, I'm the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and then falls over.
I love that show.
Yeah, me too. And then they have to like take her away. Her husband, they have to like wrangle her outside. I'm so glad I didn't have to follow that. I'm so glad I like already done my set.
Yeah. Did she heckle your set?
Maybe. I don't remember, but I was definitely new enough where I was like, there's no way I would be able to get up on stage after that and like be comfortable like dealing with that situation. Because if you're a good comic, you're gonna have to be like, make jokes about that woman.
Yeah.
It would be so weird if you just went up and just did your jokes because something insane just happened and you have to, you know, address it.
What are some things that people said? What did the comic do that was up next?
I don't know. I think he was kind of just riffing on like what her day was like that day and like how she got to be like blackout drunk by 8 p.m.
She woke up.
Yeah, it was something where he was talking about like, how did she get to this point? Because like no one else was that drunk. It was just, and her husband wasn't either. Like he was like sober. So.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's definitely a telltale sign for sure.
Yeah.
Tell me a story, like your favorite comic story of yourself, or like maybe your least favorite, whatever one comes to mind.
Like something that's happened to me on stage?
Yeah. Or that you were a part of.
My favorite, my least favorite. I'm trying to think what my least favorite. I haven't had anything like super scarring yet, so I'm kind of waiting for when the hat drops and I'm like, oh god, that was horrific. But I'm pretty good at being embarrassed and just being like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I think a big thing that I stress about a big thing that I stress about on stage is a lot of times when you're working on new material, you might say things that kind of seem like you have ill intentions, but you're really just trying to work on something. And I think that's a big thing that comics, more famous comics, that's what they're talking about by like censorship, is that sometimes you're working on something and you don't mean the way you say something a certain way, but you're working on something, so you're just trying to figure it out so you don't want people to think you're like a horrible person.
Yeah.
I guess that's sometimes like I'll walk away and be like, oh, I hope people don't think I like, ugh, you know.
Yes.
Because that was not my intention. I'm just trying to like work on something and like figure out the angles of it.
Right. And that natural gut reaction, I mean, just because you have a gut reaction to something doesn't make someone a bad person. I don't know. Yeah, so I kind of like I get it now when comics are like, well, I mean, most clubs you can't even have your phone to record them because they don't want someone recording them saying something like that and having it be posted. Like most clubs, like you can't have your phone out. Okay, that's weird because like one of the things that I'm sure people want is people to share about them on their story and stuff like that.
Yeah, comedy clubs are. I've never been to a comedy club, like even in the comedy store, all those clubs, like if you have your phone out, they'll kick you out. They'll take it from you, kick you out. And in Denver, Comedy Works, they give you like a bag to put your phone in and they lock it.
Oh my gosh.
And then they'll unlock it when you leave. Yeah, you can't have like any sort of videoing or anything like that of comics.
I did not know that about comedy. So does that originate from just like not taking something out of context, or does it originate from stealing material?
I think both. I think it's stealing material, taking things out of context, and then also, you know, if a comic is like touring material that they're going to then record for Netflix, they can't have that material out already because then they can't use it in their special. So I think it's just a combination of things, but I definitely think it's needed with comedy, not having recordings of things like that.
Yeah. What do you think about, have you ever run into someone pilfering one of your jokes or kind of like your style or something? Like you see a comic and you're like, oh, look who really likes the way I tell a joke.
I wish.
Oh, really?
I mean, what's that saying that's like, stealing is the
highest
form of flattery. Yeah. I wish. No, I mean, I guess sometimes I'll see someone who we have similar premises, but I can't say like if I had it first or if they had it first. Normally if I see someone who is doing anything similar to what I'm doing, I just stop doing it.
Yeah.
Even if maybe I did it first, I'm just, maybe if I was like really famous, it'd be a different story, but I just stopped doing stuff like that. Cause well, also, even if I didn't steal it or if they didn't steal it from me and we kind of have similar jokes, but they're not the same, I don't want to be the same as someone else.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm just going to drop it because they're going to keep doing it. So
yeah, might as well start to like develop in a different way.
Yeah.
And then you can always come back to that style or like kind of fold it into your act.
Yeah.
So you did open mics and then kind of like a natural progression into booking your own shows?
Yeah, I mean, you should start doing mics and then you start meeting, a lot of comics produce their own shows, so you just kind of start meeting people and you know, this one person who's booking this other show and it's just kind of like a networking kind of thing.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite venues to perform at?
I honestly really like backyard kind of, not a club. I don't know. Just like in like weird places at like an art museum or like just kind of things like that aren't clubs. I don't know. It just feels more intimate and normally the energy's really high. Yeah. And people are excited and
So what have you done? Did you do some live streams? I know you started a podcast of sorts. That was I was featured on a live stream of hers.
Yeah. I'm just trying to like tinker around with social media and utilizing it. I think that was a big thing in the pandemic. I was very reluctant before this year to be on social. I was like, I'm an underground comic and I'm working it and like, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, no, like this is ridiculous. Like I need to like build an audience. Yeah. You know, there's some people who there's some people who are comedy YouTubers and they get so big that they just start touring as stand-ups even though they don't do stand-up. But if you have a following and you can sell tickets, like you can do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want on stage. You could tap dance on
stage. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, this is stupid. Like I should really try to pursue social media more and gain a following to be able to do stand-up. Because, at the end of the day, no matter what, even if you're the best comic alive, if you don't have anyone who knows about you, like, no one cares.
I feel that pain. I feel like comedians and musicians share in this kind of, like, deep darkness that is just, like, where sheer artistry and creation comes from, this, like, cynical perspective. Like, some of the hardest working people and some of the maybe saddest people and the deepest thinkers are comics.
Yeah.
Because they're just viewing how effed up the world is day after day, and they're like, that's messed up, but it's also kind of funny.
Right, yeah.
Tell me, like, your favorite joke that you like to tell?
My favorite joke that I like to tell? I don't know, people really like when I talk about that I'm bad at sex. People just love hearing that. It's hard to tell. If things aren't true, they're hard to tell as a joke because it's not really true anymore. But when I wrote it definitely was true. And I've had I just go on about, I've had guys just say, like, just like crazy things about how bad I am. People love to hear that. And then I always have guys come up to me and be like, are you really bad at sex? Like, I could teach you. Like, they always do like that.
I'll teach you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But I wrote that when I was, like, a teenager, so.
Right.
I was bad at sex.
Obligatory lying like a fish.
Yeah.
Dead fish.
Yeah. Not moving at all.
When is it going to be over?
I know. It's like, is this what everyone likes? I don't
get what the hype is all about.
I know. It was like, I've been wanting this for so long, and this is what this is.
Yeah.
He's just sweaty. I'm like,
yeah.
So people like that a lot when I talk about that.
Okay, cool. And you feel comfortable talking about that, like, on stage? Or do you have to go into, are you that type of person, or do you have to go into kind of like a different side of your personality?
I know I'm pretty comfortable talking about anything on stage. There is something that I did that thing where I told my boyfriend something that I thought was normal, and he was like, that is not normal. And it's just so, I can't even, like, say it. And I tried doing it at a mic, and I was, like, freaking out because it was just so, it is so, like, now that I think about it, it's so weird. Basically what it was, I breastfed until I was, like, 4.
Oh my God, I think you told me that.
Yeah, I breastfed until I was, like, 4.
Well, we all grow up in different walks of life.
But that's something that I don't know if I'm going to talk about on stage anytime soon.
Yeah, at least you're comfortable with it. Like, that's really cool. There's different things in my life where I'm like, I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
So then I attach everything to being right and wrong.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really have that, I guess. I guess I kind of did with school because I kind of went to I went to, like, private schools my whole life. Mm-hmm. So I kind of have, like, a weird thing with, like, being smart. And, but, yeah, I don't really have a lot of guilt around things.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then you do host open mics too. You produce your own shows, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I haven't really been doing that this whole year, basically. But I was gonna, I was going to produce a show. I was gonna do it, like, this week. I'm glad I didn't because, of all the lockdown stuff. But yeah, it's so hard. Like, I want to be proactive in doing things, but, like, you can't even. Like, I can't plan a show a month out, Like, I don't know what's going to happen.
How much time do you normally need? Like, 2 weeks? 3 weeks? During non-COVID times?
Yeah, like 2 or 3 weeks to plan. But, yeah, like, you can't even, it's hard to get venues here because they don't want to do something where they get fined and, like, yeah, I'm trying to do things to be productive, but it's just hard because no one knows what's happening or yeah.
When you do produce a show, you reach out to venues, of course, that have stand-up, and then you say, I'd like to rent the place for the night, or how do they do that promoter trade-off?
It definitely depends. If you do it at a bar, sometimes this is more, you can make a lot more money producing shows in other states, or even other cities in Los Angeles, because in LA, there's just such a wealth of people doing it that no one has to get paid. But in other places, sometimes you can produce a show at a bar and you can make a percentage of the alcohol sales. Mm-hmm. I don't really think you can do that. Like, I don't think they would be down for that. But normally here, you'd ask like a bar or a restaurant, can I do this show? You normally ask like their least busy night. Mm-hmm. And you ask them to do a show, or you can rent your own space. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of performance art spaces, you know. Mm-hmm. And you can rent that and kind of bring your own crowd. Mm-hmm. The nice thing about a bar or a restaurant is that there might be people there already, or you can have them tell their regulars. So it kind of helps you build more of an audience.
Plus, they'll reshare your flyer and stuff like that.
Yeah. You can do stuff out. I mean, people have been doing a lot of outside shows. That's been a big thing, like just in a park.
Yeah.
But those are kind of the main avenues people go down, or more in like a peer space or something.
Yeah. You have some content on social media, but you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel potentially?
Yeah, I am. I guess a big reason why I wasn't producing so much stuff online was because I was like, I need to be the best I can be, and then I can do these things. But then I kind of had to get over that and be like, no, like, you should start a YouTube channel, and it's going to be bad. Just like when you started stand-up, it was bad.
Right.
And then you just are going to have to work at it and figure out, like, what people like to see from you, what. Yeah. So I'm definitely trying to go through every avenue and just do it. And it's going to be bad. No one cares.
Right.
If it's bad. Even if they're like, ew, this is bad, they don't care.
They like to see the process of things, too.
Yeah.
Like, people who find performers at the beginning of the road and then get to have the process of watching them grow. Yeah. So rewarding. Yeah. Yeah. So I just have to kind of keep all those things in mind, that like, you're never going to put good things out if you don't even try to do it, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. It does take a lot of time to get all the shots right and edit it together and stuff like that, so I can understand where you're coming from. But I think, because I've tuned into your podcast before, and you always have something interesting and funny to say. Thank you. Thank you. You could also do like commentary. Yeah, I was thinking about doing some like reaction videos, because I watch a lot of reaction videos, and people just are so boring. I don't know. They're just so boring how people react to things, and I'm like, I feel like I see a lot of people watch something ridiculous, and then they kind of like straight man it, and I'm like, no, like, you can play into how ridiculous this video is. So I have been thinking about doing some stuff like that. And would you have it where you like watch the full video there and you're like making commentary, or would you pre-watch it and then be like, here's what I thought? I'd probably do that thing where they kind of like have a clip of the video and then I react to it and then play another clip, and you know, like that kind of thing. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, we'll look out for the YouTube channel. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Thanks for having me. I think we got your stand-up. Is there anything else that we missed in between? I don't think so. I told you the thing that I don't want to talk about on stage, so you know everything. I love it. And you graced us with a few different jokes. Where can we find you and follow you online? I mostly am just on Instagram at the fake Hannah Rose. That's where I post the most. I made a TikTok at the fake Hannah Rose. Who knows if I'll post on that? Do you have some TikToks out? Yeah. I'm still trying to learn. I just got the app like a few weeks ago, and it's such a different thing. Yeah. So yeah. I normally all of my platforms are at the fake Hannah Rose. So. Right. Where can we? Oh, well, the YouTube channel. That's where we can listen to your long form stand-up content. I think that's at the fake Hannah Rose as well. If it's not, it will be at some point. Excellent. I mean, it's on my Instagram, so. Excellent. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks so much, y'all, for tuning in. Thanks so much, y'all, for tuning in. I'm Kendra from Kendra and the Bunnies. This is the Politics of Kendra, where we try as hard as possible not to talk about politics and talk about everything else. Thank you, Hannah Rose Sesser, for being on the show today and brightening up our day. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Yay.